Hi, this is János, it's Real World Audio, and I just had my latest video out there, which is wideband driver strategies for three-way approach, and I have received a lot of fantastic comments, and I would like to expand on this subject with the help of these comments, and that is because, first of all, this video reflects what I can recommend when someone wants to build a three-way approach based on a wideband driver. However, that's not the same as if I would build a loudspeaker for myself. For myself, I tried building a multi-way out of a full-range driver, and what I have found that for me, the solution that satisfies me is to when a single driver solution doesn't satisfy me, is not going three-way. That never satisfied me. The solution was a better single driver speaker, and it's not going multi-way. It won't be as good enough. So if you are coming from the background that you already have a good single driver loudspeaker and you want to step to the next level, these are the two things that I'm recommending for you. Number one, think about the cabinet that your driver is in. Does your approach match your room well? Because there is a chance that when you have a driver, maybe the driver is already better than what you are getting from it now, but it's not in an optimal cabinet for your room. That's one thing. And that the other thing, what is the other thing? I'm a little bit let me see, I forgot what I wanted to say there. So basically, one thing is the cabinet, and now I have remembered it. That's what you get when you don't have enough sleep. So the second thing is the rest of the system. And I've said this many times on my channel. I'm saying it, repeating it now for the millionth time. Then if you want to upgrade your single driver loudspeaker, upgrade your system. Because I am not a betting person, but I would if I would be a billionaire by now by betting any amount of money that the system requires updates and upgrades, and when you do that, then it will be just, you won't even recognize the sound, like on what planet I am. So here on this video you can see my here in the background my void pipe with the cube audio driver, and even when I just had the Fostex driver in it, the driver that I had for 18 years, I always found that the driver was never the limiter in the sound, and by changing and upgrading the system, I could even upscale like the amount of bass I wanted, the bass control, the presence, everything just like exploded by improving the system around it. And you can go just like immensely further than where you are right now if you upgrade your system around it. And number two, that if you want if you already have an excellent system around your full range driver, and for example you still want more deep bass and a lot more volume deep bass, then it's really, I think that's the no-brainer. Go for the cube audio drivers, because they will it will be like adding a subwoofer to a single driver. And not in a sense that if for example, even with the Fostex, I never had problems with bass with my Fostex FE204. In fact, several of my best listening experiences regarding bass were with my void pipe with the FE204 in it. Like the most realistic visual and acoustic visual impression that I ever heard of in my life, that came as real as a timpani, you know, those giant kettle drum, from recorded music. The best timpani I ever heard was with the Fostex FE204 in this void pipe. And now you would say, oh János, so does it mean it's better than the Cube Audio driver? I cannot say it, because that experience was 20 years ago with an amplifier that was in my mentor's shop in Stu's big room, in his system, his CD player, and it was a PX25 tube amplifier that was one of his customers' amplifiers. He was working something on it, and he plugged it in to test, you know, and like let's try it out. How does it sound with that? And we had one of the Dead Can Dance albums with Lisa Gerald singing, and then there's that kettle drum, and I did experience in my life like sitting next to a kettle drum being pounded. So when I know what feeling it is when you are right next to a kettle drum, how does it translate into your brain and sensations in your body. And the only time I had a feeling like that from a stereo system was with these void pipes driven by that PX25 amp in my mentors in Stu's shop, and it was just absolutely incredible. I would say probably the Cube Audio drivers would also provide something like that, but that room is gone, that system is gone. The FE204 drivers, they are dead. Their surrounds rotted out, and that surround material is unobtainium, so I cannot compare those drivers with the Cube Audios now. But I think it's not even the question which driver is better, but I had the Fostex 204 driver in this void pipe, tried it out in many rooms, many systems, and I only had I would say 2 rooms in my life where I heard them have that astonishingly amazing bass, which is just totally surreal. And I'm not talking here about numbers, about specific hertz and specific SPL. No, it's nothing like that. It is more like when we scroll down, what Frank describes here, and then people describe down in the comments, that you cannot always think of music and sound just as numbers, and you cannot distill into numbers and saying that a bigger number is always better. It's like savoring a taste, savoring the moment. There are some solutions that allow you to savor the moment much deeper. And for example, in the case of these void pipes, they do not allow me to listen to like at 110 dB volumes that I know, and I noticed that, but they are not even as limiting as you would say, because for example, what I was doing with them is that I used to go and listen to my friend Taltos play at the Dragon upstairs, play jazz live, like a jazz quartet, quintet, and they were playing jazz live. And after that, I went home immediately after the performance. I turned on the system and I put on my jazz recordings. and compare to experience. Like, how does that compare to what I just experienced? Does this compare? Bring me that feeling of having a jazz live event happening in this room, in this house. And at that time, my system was set up in a very big room. And when I had that amazing experience with the drums, Stu's big room was also a very big room. So, and you would think that for a very big room, you would need a much bigger driver, much louder SPL, but curiously enough, that single 8-inch driver in a void pipe, and driven by 807 amp at that time. What was that? It was like 4 watts per channel, about something like that. And that was enough to get volume that was approximately about 3 to 4 dB lower than what I experienced at the jazz club for the live jazz event. It was about 3-4 dB quieter than that. And guess what? When I was at the jazz club, I thought for myself, if it would be a tiny bit quieter, it would be so much more enjoyable. And guess what? That's what the void pipes presented to me. But you have to ask yourself that what are your preferences? Because if you require extreme sound pressure level for you to give satisfaction, then that won't be enough for you. But I also have to give to you this warning that if you are in that situation that you require extreme sound pressure levels, it is more than likely because the system that you have currently doesn't sound good when you are not cranking it up to level 11. And I experienced for myself for the long term that when a system lets you have just as much enjoyment and just as much joy at a little lower listening volume, that will result in your hearing acuity improving over time, your hearing not getting destroyed by your system, your hearing is getting more gently treated by your stereo, which allows you to experience music a couple of decades longer into your later years. Because if you are listening always very loud, then prepare to lose your hearing as you age. And all of my friends, without exception, who listen to very loud during their prime audio years, by now they have lost their hearing. They have problems, and your hearing will be gone. So that's my other lesson or advice, I would say, is that what you want and the path you are at also defines your future. And what is the future that you envision for yourself? Do you envision a future when you are 80 years old or 90 or beyond that, and you are still enjoying music the way you are, and not just the way you are today, but more? You can grab deeper meaning out of the music, connect to it deeper. See, if this is the future you want for yourself, then yes, go for this single driver solution, and then you don't need to add more drivers if you want more. If you want more out of the experience, work on your room, work on your system, or I would say room and system is one. Your room is part of your system. So work on your room, work on your system, and that will bring you about 99% of what you want as an upgrade. And for that last maybe 1 to 5%, okay, maybe 95%, something between 95 or 99%, depending on what's your current situation now. And the rest 5 to 1%, that's maybe you can upgrade your driver. And I would say the massive upgrade of the Cube audio driver versus like the Fostex that I had or the ones you can buy now is that the Cube audio will work well in a wider range of rooms. So if your room is not perfectly set up and does not match your speakers extremely well, it will still give you usually a pretty high level of bass reproduction, even when the room doesn't support it as well. And what I've noticed with myself that when I try to add like more ways, like more to the bass, more to the tweeter, etc., it breaks apart that unified experience that the single drivers give. So don't just imagine them as mid-range drivers, and don't think of the sound as like separate mid-range and separate bass, separate highs, because everything is together. It's like when we have a music, an event going, there are multiple instruments and each of them are giving the complete frequency range that pertains to them, each of them from different sources. A wide band of sound is coming at us, and what I notice is that if you crack this singular band apart to smaller bands, then yes, you can push the maximum available sound pressure level much higher, but these breaks will prevent it from forming a singular unified whole. And of course, with a lot of experimentation, experience and luck, even from multi-drivers, you can make them mesh together extremely well and come to an experience that is like a full range driver experience. But here I say this as a little warning: if you put equal amount of work into a full range driver speaker, you'll get already more in that area. And then you can always like be like one step ahead if you don't have to mix and match drivers and get different amps to drive each band and mess around with the crossovers, etc., etc., etc. When you don't break something apart, then you don't have to put it together as a Humpty Dumpty. And also there's lot more to expand on the subject, and I will have two types of comments for what I said in the past 10 minutes. One type of comment is coming from those who didn't have good experience with full range drivers, but they had excellent experience from multi-drivers. They will tell you in the comments that forget single drivers, they are for those people who don't have money and who didn't put enough effort into multi-driver speakers. You really have to persevere and then it will be great. And then you will have the opposite comment, 180 degrees opposite, that yeah, I've been trying out single driver speakers. I had a lot of meh to meh solutions, but then I found this and this and that, and it is just so good that this is what I exclusively listened for today. And yeah, I have maybe a good three-way system in the second room, and sometimes I turn it on and I have some songs which I prefer listening to them on those systems, but most of my listening I prefer on the single driver. And you would say, as you would read both of the comments, what is the truth? The truth is that both of them are right, and everyone is sharing their own experience, their own point of view, and the reality is that there is no perfect system. Everything, every single implementation is unique. So when someone recommends to you a three-way speaker, or someone recommends a full range speaker, do not think that that full range speaker is the answer. No, The answer is that full range speaker in that room with that system. Take it out from that room and almost nothing applies to it. Same thing is true for that three-way speaker system. If you take it out of the context from that system, from that room, it's broken. All the interpretations, everything that's about it will go to nothing. And just think about that when people, I think probably I have read at least 1,000 posts that people say, I had this perfect audio system, then I had to move to a different house, I set it up in my new room, and it's tragic. I can't even listen to it. I sold my whole system. And yeah, it was the exact same equipment. Exact same system, just in a different room. And for most people, room is different, equipment is different, and only they are just looking for a speaker. So that's why what I recommend for everyone is try to look for information, look for people's experiences, and build up a knowledge base in yourself, for yourself, and listen and experiment. And this is something that when I'm just telling this to you, this is just information, but it will translate into knowledge within you when you put in the effort for yourself and you put together a system and you put a single driver speaker in it. You try a three-way speaker in that same system, and then you follow all those advices that pertain to these systems. What are the solutions that will make your three-way more successful? What are the solutions that will make your single driver more successful? And they will be vastly different. So mostly like a three-way speaker, people will go for a solid-state amplifier and build a system that's really good for kind of like a concert type of thing, which is like an amplified, PA amplified concert. And if you have a single driver system, you build a tube amplifier. So it's built around a tube amplifier, and it will give you a system that excels at acoustic instruments which are like in their natural habitat. So they are not through PA amplification, but when you listen to an instrument, a lot of wooden instruments in it, like a guitar, violin, these type of things, or flute. Although flute is, it can be. There are some it can be wooden, but even like a piccolo or other wind instruments which are not wood, they still sound absolutely fantastic through single driver speakers. Every approach has different feel to it, different savor to it, different taste to it, and one very important thing is that our tastes change over time. And I do have friends who like I have a friend, and just like 10 years ago, he was probably the biggest single driver hater on the planet. And today he's a single driver lover. It's just like your taste can change that much over time. So when you want to diss something and you want to express how much something sucks, just think about that probably your future self will give a smack on your head for that comment, because you are going to eat your own words, and it's not other people who are going to make you eat your words, but it's yourself. And that's why I think like when we are looking for information on this, don't look for people who have the biggest egos or say like, oh, this is the best and everyone else can go and play. But just think like, where is that coming from? What do I want to get? And like here, like Frank has just absolutely amazing comments, and he just lists like if someone has a single driver system and not happy with something is not working, like for example, I give you my case right now. Here, this very room, which has terrible room acoustics, and I have here Lagranges, which are single driver speakers, and they are not terribly efficient. They are pretty lowish efficiency, like low 90s, like 91 dB per watt meter, about that region, which is not much for a single driver. And the amp driving them is my Darling amp, which is like 0.7 watt per channel. And I would say, wow, I don't have enough bass. I mean loud enough bass, so maybe I want to add the sub. No, here Frank is listing what I would want to do, and I myself would also do if I wanted louder bass here in this room, is instead of the Darling amp, put an EL84 push-pull amplifier. And yes, that EL84 push-pulls, they have a similar flavor, similar tone as a single-ended triode has. And yes, I will have a lot of comments that say, oh, it sounds very different, but if you love single-ended triode sound, I haven't met a person who didn't love the EL84 push-pull sound either. And so there are things that that come into play. And for example, here in this case, when I have these lowish efficiency single drivers with tiny drivers, then yes, that EL84 push-pull will give me that experience that I have with my big voice of Lancelots driven by Flea Power single-ended triodes. And it can be as close that if I have like an EL84 push-pull driving these in my, not here, but in my living room, and I have the big voice of Lancelot driven by my driven by this Darling amplifier, you have to like do the equivalent of pixel beeping to hear the difference between the two. So if I say, okay, I turn on one system, listen to music, then out of 10 audiophiles, maybe 1 or 2 will be able to say, okay, which system are we listening to right now? Of course, there are some examples. If you want to play something with really excessive bass, the voice of Lancelot, of course, they just extend down to like 11 hertz, and of course these babies cannot do that. So yes, you will notice that there's an extra octave and a half or more for the voice of Lancelot. But if you are not listening to music like that, then and we are not listening to like material where it's like pushing the envelope to extremes, then most people on most material will just, wow, this sounds so similar that you really have to pixel peep for the difference. And the answer is might be just to have the right amplifier for you. Okay, and look, this is what Frank is also saying, that a similar speaker but updated two-way instead of the full range driver, and the magic was gone. And when I'm talking about subjective sound quality, what I think of it as good sound is that it has the magic in the sound. It can have excellent frequency extension, it can have big, bold dynamic range. If you have a drum and boom, it can have excellent prat. But if it doesn't have magic, and after 10 minutes I want to leave the room because I'm so bored out of my mind, or my ears are hurting, or I just don't care because it doesn't engage me, it might not be something that I find anything bad with the sound, but my mind just does not focus down to the music. I'm thinking about what I'm going to do at work tomorrow. I'm thinking about I'm hungry and I you know I want to go to the gym or something like that. If it's like that, then it's not good. And if you are expanding on your system and making it have lower and lower frequency extension, or more and more waves, or higher and higher frequencies on the high end, and you still notice that I'm still not listening to the music, I'm listening to the sound, how it sounds, then it's taking you further and further away from your goal. And that's why I think putting a wideband driver in the middle of a three-way speaker system, the only advantage for that is for those folks who already have a three-way system and they don't like it, they want something radically different, they don't know what, and that will give them a taste of what it is to get into the wideband driver land, and it's the beginning of the journey of losing the tweeter and losing the woofer. And you can do that by upgrading the system, and an EL84PP is, I think, just the ticket to enter to that universe. What time are we at now? Let's see. Wow, I'm already at half an hour. Oh, what Steve is saying. He's saying the same thing. You see, EL84, it's not push-pull, but 4 times EL84 in single-ended mode. And he uses an audio node, but it doesn't need to be an audio node. EL84 is just a magical tube. And if you don't have the budget to buy an audio node, and you want to build it yourself, it will be, I think, just as good, and you will have excellent happiness out of it. And throw EL84s at Legrand, and it will be that magic overload. Yes, that's what Steve is saying. Okay. Let's see what I wanted to talk about. Now I've been talking about half an hour, so I think it's probably best to stop this video. And Hugo was saying something. Actually, I wanted to make this video because of Hugo's post, but now I'm getting there. It's already maybe time for a new movie or a new episode. But I think it will be a new one, because what he is saying is the Sonido. And for my previous video here, for this approach, I listed those 2 drivers. If you want a 3-way speaker, what would I put in the middle as an affordable driver to build around it? But I would not build that for myself. I just want to put it out for someone who wants to really set their heart on going that way. But if you are not, and those 2 drivers that I found at Medisound, I presented them because they are the ones now available in the United States, here where I live. But Hugo is absolutely right. And if I would build for myself a full range driver or a wideband driver speaker, I would, and if I do not have a Cube Audio driver, I would use the Sonido. And even better, I will use the Sonido because Gerald has sent me a pair. and I do have a pair of Sonido, so I will be able to show it and then share about it. And I think many of you remember that I promised in the beginning of this year that this is my plan for later on this year, for the fall of 2024, to build a pair of full range speakers, void pipes, folded pipes with the Sonido. And I had recently in August a little vacation when I could have built it, but I had a really bad accident and I could not build it. So that accident really scratched my speaker building plans and opportunity and window of opportunity for this year. I still have a few fractures that I'm healing with, so that's why I haven't done videos in the past couple of months, because I've been healing and just focusing on things about life to get over hard moments. But yes, definitely Sonido. So I think the next episode I will do will be with Sonido, which if you are in Europe, I think the Sonido is a cheaper alternative than buying Fostex and Mark audio drivers. I did not recommend Sonido with a three-way approach for multiple reasons. You can try it, but it's I kind of found it a sacrilege to butcher a Sonido like that, to turn it into a system like that. But anyway, you would think it different maybe if you have like a really nice driver, because when you look at Sonido, they do have woofers. So eventually when you go to Sonido's webpage, they have these bass drivers and mid bass drivers. You can add this, complement your full range speaker with a bigger, like a 12-inch Sonido woofer that will match it sonically, match it neatly. So yeah, I think I was wrong in my thoughts yesterday or before yesterday with that video. Yes, I think with this driver or the other Sonido drivers, these guys here, like these bottom three, you can build a two-way system that has the chance to supplement your full range speaker without completely messing it up and without killing that magic in the sound without remorse. So when we go back here, and here when Frank mentioned that there was an Axiom 80 with an FR301. So when you have two drivers that match really well, then you can expand the full range without killing the magic. And I think I have not done this with Sonido yet, but I know from experience that when you have a manufacturer and they spent a lifetime doing that, matching their driver's sound, then it is possible to achieve that, to kill the magic by employing those two drivers. And that's what Sonido is doing. Also, when you look at Cube Audio, that's what János shared with me from Cube Audio, is that they are working on a two-way solution to supplement the Cube Audio drivers with an additional low frequency woofer, just for those who want really that octave below that, just like that, just to get that 20 hertz region and below 20 hertz, like up there. But what I am saying is that do not focus on that. Focus first on getting your full range driver set up right, get the right room for it, get the right system for it, and when you have that, when you have the magic already in the sound, then start worrying about adding the below 30 hertz region and getting that more. But if you want to add that lowest of low octave first, and you don't have the magic in the sound, the magic won't appear because of those deep sounds. When you have that, it will always make the sound more grounded. But if you are not connecting to it yet, then with that you won't connect with that at all either. It won't help. It will just distract you from the final result, because then you will have the two drivers fighting with each other, and you are negotiating a tug of war between them, and how that ability to connect with music will be skewed by the battle between the drivers. Have the full range driver speaker dial in first, get the magic, and then mash around woofer to it. And in most cases, what you will find is that you won't need to do that. You will just lose the motivation to add anything extra to beyond what you have. And yeah, so I think that's it for today. Thank you all for listening. And that's it for today. Thank you, Tim. Bye bye.